What's up, everybody? Welcome to Free Lady. I am your host, Brittany McWethy. I have a special guest on today, Mr. Bryce Prescott, and we're in his studio recording today, so that is really exciting for me because then I get to see what actually a badass setup looks like.
Well, I appreciate you being here. I'm not, unfortunately, able to give you the full breadth of the studio. We're not doing video today, but
right,
it's okay.
Yeah. So you guys on YouTube, you guys get audio, so that's okay.
Totally.
So of course we always want to start out with, why I have this channel, you guys, is just to expand your mind. We share stories of things that we've gone through or things that we're thinking about, and you can relate and share these stories with other people, or it can be inspiring to you to change your life and to love yourself, because that's what it's really about, loving other people. So, of course, Bryce, we start off with 3 things that we're grateful for.
Okay.
Right? So, I am grateful to be here. I'm really grateful to see like a really cool setup, because that's what I want in the future. So I'm very grateful for you. And I'm grateful for just things that you actually talk about on social media.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I am, because I started following you because I'm like, dude, this guy like stands up for what he believes in. He's not afraid to share anything. And I appreciate people like that. So, and I also just appreciate, of course, spending time with my partner. He's here in the audience, you guys.
He's a good dude. I like this guy.
Yeah, I know, right? He's okay. What are you grateful for?
Well, I'm grateful for this moment. Like, I'm excited to meet you in person. We'd gone back and forth on social, and I love. You seem like the type of person that just, doesn't have a lot of obstacles, or if there's obstacles in your way, you just kind of laugh at them, and you're like, I'm starting a podcast. It doesn't matter. And you went and did it, which is great. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for just the concept of abundance and having it be something that I get to experience, even when I'm not experiencing it. And I think that that's important to just really always. That's been a thing in my life. Like, I've done a lot of work over the past years, and it's been really kind of magnified in the last several months of trying to understand deeper who I am. And I'm finally, I think, getting there.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that as well.
It's a journey.
It is.
It's a journey.
I think that everybody needs to go on this journey. I've met a lot of people like, nah, I'll pass.
Right. Because it's hard.
It is hard. And it's also very alarming, because at the same time you realize it's completely possible to transform everything about you. We are not locked into any belief, any result, anything. Like, we can really change ourselves if we want to.
You get to have that choice.
Yeah.
Like, you get to have that choice. And a lot of people don't understand, like, that they get to change
I would even say, that choice is there regardless if you see it or not. Like, that's the thing that happened for me, is that there were certain aspects of my personality where I'm like, oh, well, that's just who I am. It's like, well, no, that's not just who you are. That's who you've trained yourself to become. And when I started looking at it that way, as far as, there's programming and there's reinforced both negative and positive beliefs, and even limiting beliefs, that none of those can all be on the chopping block.
Yeah. It's really crazy, like, what we're brought up into, like, from, what we learned from our parents, even though it's what they learned from their parents, and how you grow up into all these agreements thinking that, oh, this is the way I am because my family raised me this way. This is the way I am because I'm not good enough. It's all these stories that you play in your mind. Yeah. And your mind is brilliant, obviously, because you believe them. So with just knowing that you can believe the stories that you're telling yourself, you get to change those stories. It just takes some time.
Yeah. Well, acknowledging that they are a story is so many people have their stories confused with their identity.
Right.
Well, this is who I am. I'm this victim. I've gone through this, so that makes me this person. It's like, well, okay, if you say so, but it doesn't have to be. Exactly.
So Bryce, tell us who you are and what do you do?
How long we got, Britt?
I know, right?
As you said, my name is Bryce Prescott. I'm the founder. I'll start with this. I'm the founder of Media Automated, and Media Automated is a full-service podcasting agency. We do it all. We help you start your show. We help you make sure that the show is created, engineered, and designed for your ideal listener, so that when that person hears your show, they are drawn back to you. We set up the whole thing with that so that you have a big net to help catch the people that you're trying to appeal to. When it comes to business, that's kind of my specialty. I help entrepreneurs create shows that will help them get leads. And then we have a full service agency as part of it that handles video, that handles audio, that handles everything automated. So my ideal clients and the people that I work with are people that want podcasting in their quiver, but they don't have a ton of time and they just don't want to deal with it. And so I make it so all they have to do is sit behind a microphone and then we handle everything else.
Right. This is great.
So that's what pays the bills, because on the other side of that, I am a struggling and poor comedian. I'm
Pretty funny.
I love stand-up comedy, and I'm a headlining comedian. I've headlined, L.A., Vegas, here in Utah several times. And I got into comedy about 4.5, 5 years ago because I was, it was an interesting thing because at the time I was actually kind of in the life coaching space and in the business consulting space. Which is ironic because in business I was flailing. I'd had some successes in the late 2000s in real estate. Right. A lot of successes, actually made a ton of money then, but then I lost it all and I ended up getting sick, and I was going through this sort of like kind of personal journey, if you will, to figure out who I was and what I was supposed to be here doing and the whole thing. And it's kind of gross. So I started a podcast at that point, and it gave me an excuse to kind of rub shoulders with other people and to hear stories and stuff. But I found myself in this quandary because from the time that I was a child, I was always the funny kid, and I was kind of the smart ass and sarcastic. And when I was trying to do life coaching, it didn't mesh with my personality, or so I thought. I'm like, because I would see all the successful ones that were out there. None of them were funny. They were all horribly boring, if I'm being honest. I'm like, ugh, this guy's putting me to sleep. But they were good, They had good content and good things to listen to and good things to help me with. And so I kind of morphed myself into that, where I just wasn't, and I felt that's probably why I wasn't any good at that. Not because I didn't understand principles of transformation for people, but because I just wasn't in alignment. I wasn't congruent with what I wanted to be. Right. Well, I had this thing happen to me where I stumbled across this documentary on HBO. It was a two-parter. It was two hours each, really long documentary, called The Zen Diaries of Gary Shandling. And Gary Shandling is a famous comedian. He's passed on now, but he's also had a great movie career. He was one of the Congress people in the Iron Man movies, and hilarious. He was a pioneer in TV as well. Like his show, The Larry Sanders Show, was the very first docu-style of show, similar to like The Office or Parks and Rec is now. Right. And so I was watching these documentaries, and he's a savage comic. Hilarious, very witty, very funny, very sharp. But he was also a practicing Buddhist, and he was into meditation, and he was into energy, and he had these beliefs that were really aligned. Not that I'm a Buddhist, but they really aligned with how I saw life and what I wanted. I'm like, whoa, if he can be a comedian, I can. And so I started kind of seeing how to just like, and I remember I went to my coach at that time, and I'm like, how do I do this? And he's like, what are you talking about? You just do it. Yeah. He's like, you can talk about the power of choice and the law of attraction and transformation while at the same time cracking a dick joke 2 seconds later to keep people on their guard, because that's psychologically memorable and it helps people to learn. I'm like, all right. So here in Salt Lake City, we have access to one of the greatest comedy club franchises in the United States, Wise Guys Comedy. The owner of that, Keith Stubbs, they're opening their second club in Vegas. They have a club in Boise now. There's 3 here in Utah. Wise Guys is just a staple in comedy. And they have an open mic at the downtown Wise Guys here in Salt Lake, and I just went to open mic.
A couple weeks ago, right?
No. This was 5 years ago. Or when you first
started. Oh, 5 years ago.
I didn't get up, though. I went to watch. Okay. I wanted to see how the whole thing worked, because I kept hearing, like, you just go on stage and you have 3 minutes. That seems like nothing, and the whole deal. Right. And I started to see how it went, started writing some jokes. I finally, a couple weeks later, tried it for the first time. Ate total shit. Was horrible. But I got one big laugh out of that 3 minutes. And by the way, that 3 minutes felt like an eternity. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I jumped in full. I started going to 2, 3, 4 mics a week, because there's bar mics you could go to. There's, different clubs that have their stuff. And I took it serious. And about a year later, I got to headline for the first time, which means a headlining comedian means that it's your show. You have a host and openers, and then you're the attraction. Right. 45 minutes to an hour of material is what the goal is. Wow. And I did that in a year. I'm really, really proud of that, because that's a big deal to have written enough material that was worthy enough for somebody to be willing to pay money to go see it. It wasn't that good. I mean, I got some good laughs, and it was definitely a learning experience, but that kind of started it. And then I headlined again, and here we are in 2023. and I'm in the middle of writing more material. And I took about a 3-month break, and now I'm back on.
Yeah, because you just went back on stage like a couple weeks ago, and it had been a while. Yeah, right. The last like kind of dust the.
Yeah, the last gig I had was in middle of November, and the last time I was on stage was in December at that point. And so middle of March I took a couple months off.
Do you remember that first joke that made everybody laugh 5 years ago in that 3 minutes?
Well, it's evolved since then, but yeah. It was about, well, I won't tell you the joke. I'll just tell you what it was about because the premise is funny. So my wife is a Pilates instructor.
Okay.
And I made a joke about how Kegels they're named after a guy.
No, they're not.
They are.
Really?
Dr. Anthony Kegel.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's the dude. And I thought how shitty that was for his granddaughters because you will never hear at Olive Garden, Kegel, party of 4. Like, just won't happen.
No.
So
they probably all changed their last name.
Right? Because of fucking grandpa and his ego is like, I'm going to put my name on that. And it doesn't get, that was another part of the joke. It doesn't give you any hints. If you don't know what a Kegel is, you're never going to find out unless you ask.
Right. Why would you? I mean, okay. I mean, I would just name it something else if I was that guy.
Well, that's a part of my joke because I said, I asked my wife
Kegels.
as a Pilates instructor because she gets frustrated at that word.
Yeah.
And I go, well, what would you call it? She's like, well, it's a pussy push-up. That's what it is.
Yeah. Right.
A push-up, you know?
You got to make it tight, I guess, like for the women that have kids and all this stuff. I mean, it really does. Like women talk about it all the time.
Well,
all that thing.
You see, Britt, it's your pelvic floor. And your pelvic floor is what keeps the piss in when you laugh. So if you're laughing and you're peeing, you need to look up that Kegel guy.
Right? It's just not a good word.
Squeezy, squeezy.
Making some lemonade.
Yeah. Anyway,
well,
so that's
pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I mean, I love comedy, and I think that's what attracted me to you too. Like, you stand up for yourself, you say what's on your mind, you make fun of Britney Spears songs. That was my favorite recent.
Britney Spears song? I don't remember this. I made fun of Britney? Yes. I mean, who doesn't, clearly, but.
Remember you went on and you actually like dissected her song and were like.
It was Pink.
Yeah.
It was the Pink song.
No, it was Britney.
Are you sure?
I am sure. It was like Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, I never thought about it that way, right? And there's so many songs like that are just so catchy and you're like, what are you really saying? Like, you like to get hit? Or are you getting hit? Or is someone writing these lyrics because you actually are getting hit? Like,
did your Illuminati overlord clear this song?
And I just thought that was so great. So I just love that you're kind of, central to so many things. And I love people that make me laugh. My little brother has a dry sense of humor. I'm like, gosh, it's just I feel like nature's medicine is through laughter. Like when you have those belly laughs, like your whole
nature's weed is laughter.
Yeah, maybe nature's weed, whatever. But your whole body just resonates with so much good energy when you have those like belly laughs, and you're just, sometimes there's alcohol and weed involved, but whatever,
Let me share this with you. I love that you're bringing this up because I too have a soft spot for laughter, obviously. But people don't realize its power when it comes to learning.
Right.
See, before I got into stand-up, I've done a ton of public speaking and been in front of crowds, and I've been behind a podcast mic since 2013. So it's nothing new for me to, in real time, have to articulate a thought and get it out in a fluid way. And I want to do it in a way that like is memorable.
Right.
That was one of the best advice I gave as a comedian. One of my good friends is a guy named Rodney Normand. He's a comedian. You might have known who Rodney is. He's got the big bushy hair. He's like, hey guys, what's going on?
Yes.
He's the best. Rodney is the best.
Hilarious.
He is
hilarious.
So good. His joke, hey man, I don't know who needs to know. Hear this, so I won't waste your time. Anyway, he
like
said
so
if you can't be funny, be memorable. So being memorable is like a key thing. But when it comes to kind of the psychology of laughter, it sounds so like I'm going to twist my mustache here. When you look at the science of laughter, it actually, when you are laughing while you're learning, it puts that information in both short-term and long-term recall.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah. So that's why people can remember their favorite comedy bits from before. It's because they were laughing and they're like, oh yeah, and it takes you to a different part of their brain. And so from a public speaking standpoint, I thought, Well, that's a great skill to acquire, to be able to get people to laugh without them wanting to laugh.
Right.
Laughter is a tell. If you laugh at something, I know what you feel about it.
Yeah.
You can't hide it at that point. And so there's
Right.
power in it. And people, I think, overlook that when it comes to creating powerful messaging, because, you know, they use drama and sadness and stories. Like, well, I was without my pants and we decided to, I lost it all, you know, or whatever. And you get all sobby, but like times 10 is what happens when you're telling a funny story.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Or when you're really expressive. I mean, that's what I love about, like, you know, Kevin Hart, for example.
Yeah.
You know, when he did Seriously Funny, I watch that stand up all the time because I love when he's making fun of his son in the oven, when he's making fun of Shaquille O'Neal on the ground. God, I mean, it's so freaking hilarious. And he's
a different animal, dude.
He is such a different animal, right?
To have that level of success and still be funny.
Yeah.
Get out of here, man.
Yeah. I mean, you know, because there's some of his, you know, stand up where you're like, oh, it's not the same as the first one. But then he just continues to keep working on it. And he's so funny. You know, I mean, look at Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. Dude, Dave
Iconic.
Chappelle, I can't wait for history to look back on this guy, and we can finally realize what a blessing he was to humanity.
Right. Because he also has now, like, when he's standing up, like, he's talking about some serious shit now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In a funny way.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's actually been a little bit more serious where he makes the crowd just like, oh shit, you know, like when he's been made fun of or shamed or bullied or whatever. And he's like, dude,
that
like,
story that he told at the end of The Closer about his transgender friend that killed themselves. But okay,
man.
but here's the beauty of what he did. There's a formula in comedy that says, in stand-up specifically, that your setup has to equal the punchline. So if you have a long, drawn-out setup, the punchline's got to be a killer.
Right.
And if you recall that entire bit, when he talks about how the friend did what he did, and then the very end of that bit was that he can't wait to tell her daughter, I knew your father. She was a lovely woman. It brings it all. It's such a masterful punchline for that whole story, and it's hilarious.
That was one of. I mean, all of his stand-ups are iconic, but that, like, you know, I think it hit everybody's hearts because, you know, and that's the thing about comedy now. Like, you're getting shamed for so many things. I mean, even like just a couple years ago, some people's, you know, comedian, when they're standing up, they would totally think it's racist or, you know, you're bullying that person. Like, it's freaking comedy, you guys. Like, you're making fun of, like, people that you look up to or people that you respect.
Well, this new breed of
You're
human,
supposed to laugh.
This new breed of human that gets pissed off in behalf of other people. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, well, that's offensive to them. Are you them? Well, no. Then shut up.
Right. Do you not like to laugh?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're watching comedies at home.
Right.
You know, and even some movies, like back then, a couple years ago, they wouldn't even be able to be released now because it's like this.
Well, dude, I was watching Ace Ventura of all shows not too long ago, and the whole like Finkel Einhorn thing, like that's it's totally transphobic by today's standards.
Yep.
But like he's in the shower, the crying game song is in. He's like got the plunger, dude. It's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, my sister is obsessed with Ace Ventura. We watched that as kids. I mean, it was such a staple for us growing up. Like Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey, like
Dumb and Dumber. Like,
oh man,
yeah,
you had 2 pairs of gloves the whole time. Like, I mean, iconic stuff.
Just when I think you can't get any dumber.
It's so good.
Yes.
It's so good. And comedy back then was just so natural. It was flowing. You know, even people like Will Ferrell, they don't have scripts in some of their movies. They just go off of what they're doing. And it's acceptable because it makes people laugh. But now you have all these rules of like, how do you make people laugh now so we don't hurt anybody's feelings? Like, fuck your feelings, man. Like, we're here to give you belly laughs. And just like you were talking about psychology, it's going to keep your memory in check because it's doing 2 different things in your brain. Like,
I get such a kick out of like the idea of paying to go to a show and then being pissed off. It's like, you paid that guy already.
yeah.
Thank you for...
Yeah.
Paying to be offended? Is that what we're about now?
Or the people that sit in the front row? Like, you paid to sit in the front row, and now you're getting butthurt. Cry yourself a river.
God, I love our human brothers and sisters. Aren't they interesting?
Well, I mean, today's world is, you know, extremely fascinating, right? Like, this is going to totally go off comedy now, but, you know, just the fact of, like, how you have to stand up for being a man today. You know, I can't, you know, I've been trying to talk to men about this as much as possible. That's why I had Keith come on my podcast, because I'm like, dude, like, every week I'm finding that, you know, 2 more male suicides have happened, and this has happened, you know? And so it's not just like in comedy that we have these rules. In movies, we have these rules, or TV shows. Like, there are rules that people are trying to mold you into being a man or a woman.
Right.
And it's horrible, you know? I mean, even talk about, like, with, you know, the transgenders in sports. Just have a transgender sports event. Just put them in a category so everybody's fair. Like, all these women work so hard.
Dude, I
mean, come on.
Do you want to put our tinfoil hats on? Because I have like a epic level sort of like connect the dots that I figured out about all of this.
Yes, I would love to hear.
Are you ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, this is gonna blow your mind, Britt.
Okay.
They're gonna shut us down for this.
Probably.
We're gonna get raided here in a second because the FBI is already listening right now. Anyway,
of course.
So if you look, you know what the WEF is, right? The World Economic Forum.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as a part of their like list of tenets that they have as their goals, it's to further progress LGBTQIA rights across the world. Okay, so if you have an economic forum for the world, why would that be important? That's my question. I'm like, why would that matter? It's not because they give a shit about inclusivity.
Right.
Or that they're so concerned about everybody being included. They don't care.
Right.
They're trying to have one world order, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I started thinking about that because I have this belief that if I get an answer that doesn't make sense, I'm asking the wrong question. So if it's not like, well, why would they have that? Because it doesn't make sense. It's like, what do they benefit from by having that in there? And if you look at what's happening across our entire country in the United States, when it comes to transgender rights, we have an issue clearly with biological men competing in women's sports. You have feminists kind of all twisted up as far as like, what is a woman? There's certain people that can't even answer the question, what is a woman?
Oh, I know. It's all over the place
all
right
over
now.
the place, right?
I'm like, what?
And then you have National Women's or International, whatever it was, Women's Day just a few weeks ago. They gave the award in the White House to a biological man. There was another award related to some Woman of the Year that happened that was a brand new Minnesota congressperson.
Yes.
Then this transgender woman received the award as well. So it's biological male received this award. And if you look around and you have, like, there was a doctor that's in the Biden administration that was legitimately saying things like men can be pregnant, men can menstruate. There's this push across the country to have, sanitary napkins and tampons in men's restrooms because not all men are, some men menstruate. There's this whole push, right?
Right.
Okay. And so then when you further even get into some of the things relative to, transitioning for young people and what all this is, and the idea that a 9-year-old is going to know that they're a different gender, as opposed to the idea that they might just not have their wits about them because they're growing in their brains or these chemical mushes, and it's just some things happen personality-wise. Okay.
Right,
so
right.
When you look at the whole thing of this, the end, again, for me, if I'm not getting an answer to the question that makes sense, I'm going to ask a new question. So my question that I ask is like, what's the result of all that on society? It's not inclusion. It's not about being nice to people. It's not like people have issue with transgender people anyway. It's like we have this world like nobody's denying anything. They have rights.
Absolutely
it's a thing.
Not.
Okay.
Right.
So what are they benefiting? And this is where I got it. They benefit from a society not now having objective truth. There's no black and white. There's no gravity pulls you closer to the earth. That's a truth you can't deny. There's no men are men, women are women truth. And so without an objective truth, everything is up for grabs to be considered a truth. So that means that they can gaslight you into saying, like, because if you watch, for example, what happens in the press secretary of the White House, they lie like it's just off their tongues, and they say things that they want you to believe that they believe. And what it does is it
100%.
makes you question, well, maybe I'm wrong. If in the media, the censorship, the stuff with Twitter, the stuff with all this.
That goes with everything.
Everything. So what we're having is that truth is getting pushed against, and these non-objective sort of, well, my truth is that I'm a woman, are being upheld as objective truth.
Right.
Well, the effect that has on a society is basically you can convince them of anything at this point. So
Yeah.
if there really is the idea, bringing it all the way back to the World Economic Forum, to convince us that it's in our best interest to have a one world government, we're going to have to believe things that we would never believe before. And the push against that is starting with this idea of like, no, it's cool, dude. Men can have a period. No, that's real.
And, you know, not to say like I have gay friends, transgender friends. I love everybody. I think love is beautiful. I think you should be able to love anyone who you want, you know, but don't take away our rights. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what the crazy thing is like you're putting it all in the same mushy pot.
But
and it
you're
doesn't make
experiencing
sense.
the thing I'm sharing. It's like
Right?
they're making it seem like we're the ones wrong for thinking, wait, so you're telling me that out of the thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of years of humanity on this planet,
Right.
just now we're figuring this out and they had it wrong all along?
Thank you.
We're now the brainiacs?
Thank you.
Or are we full of shit and we're trying to use, unfortunately, these horrible situations with people to further an agenda?
Yeah, and make us
that isn't our
question
own.
like what we believe. You
Yeah.
know, it's so much harder to even see, you know, the bigger truth because you're just getting bombarded. But it's also your choice. Like, who are you listening to? You know what I'm saying? I think it would be badass if there was a transgender, like, you know, basketball league, football league. I'd be like, that is badass. I would respect the shit out of that because they're making it a league. They're going all in with all different types of hormones and emotions and heights.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that'd be really cool. And I also think they would get more respect. You know what I'm saying? Everyone, you know, in their gender should work hard for like a sport or whatever, but don't take it away from somebody else that's naturally born.
Yeah.
I think you said that, right?
It was Greg Anderson that was talking about naturally born.
Yeah, naturally born. That's right. And I was like, that's genius. Like you just changed that word. What were you naturally born? You know, and that's who you are, but you can identify as somebody else. I don't care if you identified as a lizard. You know what I mean? If you want to have a lizard, you know, basketball team, that's great. Whatever you want to do, just be respectful of humanity and who we are. It drives me bananas.
I really do believe in that people have that as an experience, that transgender people are real. But I also believe that just like everything in this world, bad actors come in and steal it and minimize it and take advantage of it for other gain.
Oh yeah.
And so, and if I was a transgender person, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, you guys are making a mockery out of what the experience actually is with all this nonsense. Mm-hmm. Like you look at Leah Thomas, the swimmer that won the world or the women's NCAA championship. This is a biological male that's 6'3", 180 pounds, and just murking chicks on that thing. Just he's beating them all.
I take hormones.
And
Your
when you
body
see on the
makes
podium
testosterone.
this large masculine looking human being next to these feminine, you know, biological women, that's a mockery.
And
like
then why
that
are women
person
even
was
gonna
ranked
compete anymore?
478th when she was in the men's side of things.
Right.
And then I keep saying
and then it's like, how do you feel good about that? I don't think any transgender who is competing against women, if you were a man, like, how do you feel good about that? Because you know your body is naturally producing testosterone. Like, you know your muscles are naturally different because you're naturally born that way. I wouldn't feel great.
I wish they would
about
speak
that.
up. We don't get to hear from them. We hear from the voices around them.
Right.
And I think that's a problem.
I agree. And that's, you know, for men in general, and you can speak on this, like, I feel like that is why there are so many more suicides, because men are being shamed for being masculine, for being their naturally born selves. Yeah. And when you don't feel that way, it makes you not want to be vulnerable because you're shamed for being vulnerable or getting help or all these things, when it used to not be like that. And I mean, it's just happening so much this last year of so many people that are amazing that are gone because they don't feel like they have, you know, a choice to be who they are.
I don't know if it's that stark. And what I mean by that is that clearly suicide and suicidal thoughts are an epidemic. And, you know, I've had them and fortunately I've never acted upon them, but I've gone through in my head the scenario of like, I could check out. I don't matter. The whole thing, you know?
Right.
And I think that, this isn't every case clearly, but I think there's certain men that do that it's like a perfect storm of depression and possibly alcohol or another drug.
Sure.
And a fight with the wife or the whatever. And it's a split second thing that they just make and it's over.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was this sort of long drawn out, I planned this, I'm going to be gone. It was like a weak moment that literally took their life. Now, regardless, that's still bad. Okay. To have that get to the point that is what's happening for men is bad.
And in such a split second.
Of course. And that's where it becomes even more confusing for the friends and family of this. Like, this guy seemed normal. Like, he seemed like he was all good. I know there's an entrepreneur here in Utah that his son found him at their place of business Christmas morning. He had shot himself in the head on Christmas morning, and his kid found him where they worked. This is over by the airport at a place there. I'd done a ton of business with these people, and I heard about it. And I'm like, I could have never imagined that guy would have ever done that.
Right.
But here's where I think that we get it wrong when it comes to supporting men. We try to separate this idea of like, well, toxicity, toxic masculinity. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's toxic people.
Yes.
And there's toxic traits.
Amen.
You can be an asshole and be a guy, and you can be an asshole and being a woman.
Absolutely.
And those traits aren't associated with the energy of what masculine or feminine energy. Mm-hmm. You know, I can say you had Keith Yackey on your show.
Yeah.
I love him to death like a brother. He's one of my best friends. And I'm a part of his Ascend Brotherhood that he created.
Yes.
And I have learned personally through that experience that what people need, but men specifically, is they need a tribe.
Yeah.
And not a tribe. One of the beautiful things about what Keith created there, it's not a mastermind. We're not going to talk about our business and how to do better marketing and everything. Right. There's no, none of that. We're going to fuck around.
Yeah.
We play spike ball on the beach. We go race go-karts. We compete. We laugh. We bust each other's balls. We drink. We get high. Like, we have a good time. And that opens us up to know that, like, these guys got my back. And every time I've come home after one of those meetings in California, I've just felt like my tank was full.
Yeah.
And it wasn't coming from my wife. It wasn't coming from being a good dad or my kids or how much money I was making or anything. It came with the association of these other men. You know, it used to be that we needed tribes to truly survive, that our society was what it was, but we don't need them to survive anymore, but we do need them to thrive. Right. And so when you factor that in from a masculine sort of energy and the whole toxic conversation, men just need a place where they can go be a man.
Right. I remember reading something about the first time you went to the Ascend Brotherhood because you were like lacking some sort of masculinity in yourself.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, dude, I'm around these guys. I feel competitive.
Yeah.
You know, and men should, I mean, women too, but like feeling that competitive of like, oh yeah, like,
well,
I want to be good too. I want to
convinced
feel good.
that, I did some content about this a while ago that
you did.
The comparison is the thief of joy. We hear that, right?
Right.
And I don't believe that anymore. I used to. I think that if I was going to compare myself to somebody else, that I was robbing myself of the beauty of my own greatness and the beauty of my own uniqueness.
Right.
Which I could see, and I remember that. But when I flipped it around and I'm like, I got a target on that guy now. Mm-hmm. I'm inspired to go beat him. Like, he did that. That guy's a fucking idiot. I can do it too. And it became this thing in that moment that you're referring to. Like, we had this race that we were doing and we started running, and something just like an old school thing in my head was like, no motherfucker is beating me up this hill. And I took off like a bat out of hell and nobody did. I beat everybody by 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I felt that fire of competition. I think that's something else that our society very, covertly has robbed men of, is the need to compete with each other.
Right.
We're not supposed to compete. Competition breeds, shut up. Let's go win.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome to win. It's a really great feeling. And when
it's a learning experience to lose too.
Right.
Like, shit, I was so close.
And also to respect the other one that did win.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what competition's about. That's what tribe's about. Like, I might hate you while I'm running up next to you that hill. That motherfucker's beating me. Like, no way. But that just like will drive you to run even harder. When it's all over, be like, damn, that was awesome. Like, I saw that fire in you. Like, that was so awesome. I want that.
Yes.
I want that. And that's what I love what Keith is doing, is that it's not anything new.
No.
You know what I mean?
It's so simple.
It's not anything new. And I just I love that there's so much versatility in his brotherhood. And it's just like, you don't have to be in his Ascend brotherhood. Make your own brotherhood.
Yeah. It's
so important. Like, women need their women, men need their men, because sometimes, like, through husband and wife or relationships, like, you're not going to get it. I might not get everything Daniel is going to say.
That's another lie we've been told, is that it's good to have your partner be your best friend. Like, it's great to have your partner be your friend and even a best friend, but it can't be your only friend.
No.
Your partner has to be somebody, like, there's certain things in order to maintain a sexy, romantic, passionate relationship. There's certain things that you don't do with each other.
Right.
Sorry to say it.
Right. You shouldn't be sorry to say it.
Close the door when you're shitting. Keep a little bit of, like, just, surprise and mystique and mystery here, and have your boys.
I mean, it just feels good to be around the same kind of energy, right? It sparks something else in you. But you also have to remember too, to, like, you want to keep that circle small. Like, you don't have these brotherhoods or sisterhoods where you're talking shit about your partner.
Oh, horribly.
Like,
no, horrible.
What are you doing? Like, first of all, you're bringing that vibration of yourself down. You're disrespecting yourself. You're disrespecting your partner, because there are a gaggle, I like to call them the gaggle tribes, where they're just, like, totally talking down to each other, their partners, everything like that, and then all these women or all these men are telling you what they think, and then it messes with your own mind. So, like, if Daniel and I have a problem, I might talk to my one friend that doesn't judge me. I just talk to her. You know what I mean? She doesn't even give me opinions. She's just a sounding board as a female. She's been married to her husband for 22 years. They got 6 kids. They've been through it all, and they're an amazing couple, right? But I don't, like, go spreading across the world, like, hey, I really don't like it when Daniel leaves the toilet seat up, right? Yeah. Like, so, that's not a very good example, but that's just an example. Like, no, not everyone needs to know that. I just want to have a sounding board. It doesn't need to be to everybody else. So that's when your tight circle of friends, and your tribe should be like that too. I
had this several years ago. I had a business partner, and they ended up getting divorced, him and his wife. But before they got divorced, there were times where he would come into the office and he was clearly frazzled by what was going on. Mm-hmm. And he said something that really impacted me, and it stuck with me. I was offering to him to be a sounding board. Like, hey, man, what's going on? Do you need to talk?
Sure.
And he said to me, he goes, look, my wife. I don't feel it's appropriate for me to share with you the things I'm experiencing, because I don't want to put that on you to have to filter through your interpretation of what I'm going through and judge her because of that. That's not fair to her. And I was like, that's really mature, actually.
It is. Yeah.
Because I loved his wife. She was amazing, and she was very accomplished and a great person. And so I knew that the two of them and the issues that they had weren't because either of them were bad people. It was just the gears were grinding wrong, and I wasn't a professional to be able to help them with. I was encouraging them to go to therapy, go talk to a pro, go get a coach,
and
do
that's
something.
A good friend, right? That's a good friend. Like, instead of like, making
oh my God, can you believe what she said to me? That's so gross.
Ew, gross. I just can't. I mean, it's pretty natural for me. Have always had like really good guy friends, because I hate drama, and all my girlfriends are all like tomboys, which is really cool. But we also try to be feminine and be in our feminine energy, right? So like talking about feminine energy for a second, a lot of women, because of the times that we're in, we play this really masculine role because we're protecting ourselves. And I didn't even realize I was doing that like most of my life. That's why I was attracting these like assholes that were narcissists and trying to like belittle me and make me feel stupid. So then I have to be masculine.
Right.
I have to protect myself. Where when I met Daniel lets me be me, and he sees my feminine energy and he respects that. He lets me be like in my feminine energy, and I respect him as a masculine man. And it's really, really beautiful once you understand that, because I was like, oh my God, like no wonder I'm protecting all. But it could stem from my childhood too, of like trying to figure out what love really is. And love is, so different for all of us.
Yeah.
And
that's a deep well.
It is. Yeah, it is. But, I'm here today with, my life partner, and I wouldn't ask for anything to change in my past too, because then I recognized what I was doing. Like it wasn't just the other person, it was me too. And I had no idea, but it was because I was programmed to be this way and to protect myself. And I think, that goes across the board of like humanity not being in their true energies, whether you're transgender, gay or not, like you can still have that presence of what energy that you provide yourself and to others.
The last, my last trip to Dana Point, a topic of conversation came up about self-acceptance and self-love and just kind of seeing yourself. And for us men, it was about being, a badass and being a king really of your own domain. And, I can't recall who said it, but it came out this phrase that said, don't live your life by committee. Meaning that you are the final judge and juror for what you allow into your life. And the more you acquiesce to the needs or desires for you from others, the less happy you will be, and the more that it will fortify a feeling of lack and a feeling of unworthiness of having exactly what you want. Wow. And the crazy part is that the leap of faith that it takes to do that, because, I'm 47 years old. I've been, I'm on my second marriage. We've been married for 18 years in May. We've got children. Guys. There's a lot at stake with decisions that I could or would make relative to my feelings about myself and what I would want. But at the end of the day, I don't live my life by committee. I choose what I want based off of what's best for me. Right. And sometimes the irony is that what's best for me is to give back in and to humble myself and to not realize that I have to have all of this right now, but that where I want to go and the things I really want are through collaboration and through giving in and loving with, for example, my partner, my wife. Yeah. Where a lot of other people will be like, nah, just leave, just do this, whatever. If it's not going, it's like, dude, marriage takes work. Like, and that's been, I guess the whole point of bringing that up is that we have to take ownership for our lives, and we have to be willing. Yes. We have to be willing to do that. Right. It's easy to say, but a lot of people take credit for work they've never done.
That's so true. It's like when you're taking ownership, you're taking responsibility of your actions. Like the people that play the victim, they're not taking ownership. They're just blaming everything on somebody else because they don't want to do the hard work. I don't know
if it's that they don't want to or they don't know how.
True.
It could be both.
It could be both.
I know I've met some people in my life where I'm like, holy shit, how are you as evolved as you are considering the damage that you've gone through and to be in a certain spot based off of that. Like it's, again, like we were saying off mic, we're all in this journey. Yeah. Everybody just has a different map.
Yeah. And that map is really intense.
Can be.
For a lot of people, or how our society shows us what we should be thinking about our journey.
I think there's some wisdom in that, yeah.
So you either take ownership with eyes open, or you take ownership with eyes closed and you let somebody else make your decisions based on what you want to believe in yourself.
The beautiful part of what I just heard you say is that regardless, you're taking ownership whether or not you're actually taking ownership.
Right.
Your results speak for themselves. Your results are the exact demonstration and manifestation of every decision that you've made. Mm-hmm. And if you like those results, cool. If you don't, you can change them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, now if you really kind of focus on making all your decisions with unconditional love, you won't be like so hard on yourself or stressed out because shit happens. Nothing is perfect and we're not perfect. And that's the beauty behind all of humanity. So if you go into something with unconditional love, you're not going to get so mad that it didn't work out because you're putting love there first.
Yeah.
You're putting your whole heart in there first. Because if I'm not doing something with unconditional love, why am I doing it? Because if it's not successful, I'm going to be like, well, I'm a freaking idiot.
Okay, so I want to unpack that, though. So what do you mean by unconditional love?
Unconditional love to me is that I'm going in it without, being hard on myself. Like, I want to come at this problem or at this situation with love first. So then if something doesn't work out, it's okay. There was a lesson.
I love that.
You know what I mean? Something did work out. There is a lesson. Now, if I didn't go into like situations with love and it didn't work out, I would be probably extremely mad at myself. I would have no confidence and I would want to ever do it again.
Yeah.
So when you put love first through something that you're doing, you have respect for yourself, whether it goes right or wrong, because there's always a lesson that you're going to learn.
Right. I love how you describe that. I think another way to kind of add to that is the idea that you fall in love with the process and not the result. That like if you're committed to something that you want, there's a certain way about getting it. And if it doesn't happen, okay, but the path itself could be the teacher.
Absolutely.
We always get more excited
that's the journey
on Christmas Eve than we do Christmas morning. So the process is where the fun is, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and that, and if everybody, looked at life like that, the world would be such a better place. But obviously, it's not like that.
Our boy Keith says I love how he says this. He goes, get curious. Don't judge, get curious.
Ask questions.
I confided to him about some stuff I was going through a while ago. And he goes, okay. Because he heard me saying a lot of like judgment about myself and like, I can't believe I'm doing this or I did this and I was such an idiot and I was all this negative self-speak. And
we all
he's
do
like,
it.
bro, be curious, man. Have you ever thought why you did it? Like what you were trying to get at? And I'm like, no, I've been backing up against this should wall. Like I should. And he's like, well, stop that, man. Get curious. And that embodying that as a principle has been a game changer for me. Like get curious. If you don't like your behaviors, get curious. Why? Why? And not in a judgmental, like, not why you fucking idiot, but more like, why? There's something in me that's pulled towards that. What is the basis of that pull?
Right. That can go in so many different directions too.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
One of the directions it goes is that you like yourself.
Right. Right.
We have a lovely dog here. I bet you he does some funny ass shit that you can't ever explain. You're like, I don't know. He's still my dog.
Remy
love him.
will sit like a prairie dog, like for days. I mean,
he's adorbs, by the way.
I know, she's so cute.
Oh, okay.
She seriously is like the best dog. So if you guys are listening, my partner is here and in the audience of one. And
don't discount all the personalities in my head that way.
Remy is just she's the best dog. I've never met a dog like her. She's I know you can go.
Come here.
You can go say hi. It's okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Remy. Go say hi. She is the best dog, you guys. Well, I mean, whatever. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, everything that if we're curious, we have unconditional love, the world just is a better place around us because we're going to also attract all those things. And I love that, I might be saying unconditional love. The vanilla gorilla, as Keith likes to call himself, might be telling you curious. By the way, I don't know if you saw my story the other day, but we were driving around this area and there's a freaking white gorilla on the corner of the street. And I tagged Keith and I was like, there's the vanilla gorilla.
Oh my gosh. That's great. That's amazing. I did not know that.
I'll have to send you the picture. I was just dying because he said that in like some reel that he posted, and I was like, the vanilla gorilla, that is so good.
Mr. Redwood.
He just always has like the best things. It's hilarious. But we have these people around us in our life, right? To make us better people, to make us laugh, to inspire us, to make us curious, to have unconditional love and respect for each other. Like I had, my best friend's husband called me this morning. He was like, oh, this chick. And we were totally talking about two different people. And, he was like, Brittany, you know what I really love about you? Like, you're so unrecognizable from like 2 years ago. Like, I love, like, I've always liked you, but I love who you are now because I can talk to you about anything. And I know you're not going to judge me. I know you're going to be more respectful, so whether, I like guns or like talking about politics or, talking about sex or what all these things that used to be really uncomfortable for me to talk about. It's a beautiful thing that I can talk about that. I might be judged by my family or some people and my friends, but I'm just like, whatever, man. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing because once your eyes are open to who you get to become, it's a really beautiful place. Yeah. And then you get to attract, the people that you want at your table, just like this, I find like doing this podcast, I'm just building my table of all these really badass motherfuckers. Like I get so excited to interview anybody because we're all together in this trying to speak about things to help somebody else, to give back. And also, throwing a funny line in here, Well,
the beautiful thing, and I'll give you props on this for starting your show.
Thank you.
The thing that I didn't hear out of your mouth is the most important thing is that when you do this, you become better at communicating and more willing to stand behind your convictions and more willing to take action for the things that you want and to root out the negative beliefs that are holding you back. There's something powerful about being in podcasting and being forced to record and to have guests and to articulate your thoughts and then to put them out to the world and then just kind of wait and go, let's see how this goes.
Oh yeah.
It helps you grow. Like that's the overlooked and sometimes unintended consequence of what you're doing with your show, Brittany, is that you grow, you're going to grow more than anything.
Yeah. And because of that growth, even, I'm getting, shit from some people in my family right now. And I'm like, I don't care.
Would you trade lives with those people?
No.
There you go.
Absolutely not.
That's the funny thing. Nobody would. Every time I get, I've been pretty active on social media, and every now and then I'll get a little bit more polarizing than other times, and and I'll get a little heat back from it, and I start realizing like that guy is a nameless dude,
right?
That it doesn't even have the balls to put his own name or picture on his profile.
Right.
And I'm supposed to be offended or affected by his stupid idea about what I said. Like I'm okay.
Well, they're also hearing what they want to hear. They're also seeing what they want to see. And that's,
some of them are bots.
Totally. Right. But when it's your family or friends, it's like, are you truly seeing the bigger picture of what I'm doing? Expand your mind. Expand the respect that other people out there, I'm not the only one trying to spread love around, and if you don't see that picture, you need to be curious why.
Yeah.
You need to start asking yourself questions, just like you were saying, like, why do I feel this way? What has programmed me to feel this way? Why am I hating on this person?
What is being irritated inside of me? What demon is this irritating in me? Why am I offended? Why am I feeling this? Because it goes both ways. Like, we can be the offender, but let's be real. Sometimes I'll see shit and I'm like, fuck off, dude. Like, I'll get pissed while I'm scrolling through. And I have to ask myself in those moments, like, why do I care? Like, what about this? Yeah. And I've realized, like, there's like these balls of emotion. There's balls of emotion. And these emotion balls.
Sorry, I'm going back to the microphone.
Oh, yeah. So there's these like balls of emotion. And they're all a bunch of different things.
True.
It could be part resentment and part anger and part sadness and part, feeling like you're missing out. Like And it gets this thing, and we project it into this other area instead of being that. And I also know that I found, and I had to stop this, that I know how much attention I give on a daily basis towards trying to figure myself out. And then once I figure out something about myself, to live differently so that I don't have to repeat the same challenges and issues. And I know how much I put forth in that effort to daily. So when I get, experience from dealing with somebody else, I hold... It's subconscious. I hold them to the same standard that I hold myself. And so I think, how could you do that? Like I get offended at their lack of awareness or their lack of willingness to own what they're saying or to be just real.
Right.
And I can't. Nobody can't do that. Like,
but don't you think it's beautiful now that like when you do look at things now that you're like, why do you ask yourself, why do I feel this way?
Oh, 100%. Like I've recognized both in comedy and with podcasts and my business, I have aspirations for fame. I have aspirations to like really be influential and to have my laughs and my content, my stuff be something that moves the needle for people.
Yeah.
And I've recognized that like quite literally the thing that has held me back, or I won't say held me back, I'll say slowed my progress to where I've thought it should have been quicker, has been the offense that I take towards nonsensical things coming at me that have nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Like if somebody comes at me about a joke or about, my stance politically or whatever, it has nothing to do with me. Right. It has to do with the filter to which they're looking through in their lives based off their judgments and who they are and the things that they've experienced, looking at me like I'm the problem. And it has nothing to do with me. I'm just some page I'm a name on a screen to them, but it triggered it, and they go out. So like that interface, the better that I've gotten at letting that go and just being like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
The bigger deal. I'll share this experience. I had this happen a while. This is about 2-3 weeks ago, and I was really proud of myself for this moment. I'm on Twitter, and I really enjoy for the most
Twitter
part.
Game's great.
Thank you.
It's pretty great.
I use it mostly to like write jokes and stuff, but sometimes I go and like I get involved in these feeds, and like there's a couple of kind of, I'll call them bad actors that just say the most nonsensical, like you can tell that their Trump derangement syndrome is off the charts, just out of line with how they see things or whatever. And so I'll go and get in the mix, and I'll post something like, oh, really? And like I'll just kind of like poke the bear a little bit. And there was a guy that was posting about some January 6th stuff. And I just made a simple tweet, and I said, it's cute that you think it was an actual committee, blah, blah, blah. It was a really simple tweet. And it got like positioned at the top of that stuff. And I got literally tens of thousands of numbers of engagement, whether retweets, shares, so much shit talking to me. Whatever, thumper, like just everybody coming at me because of this. And I was so proud of myself because I could have given a fuck.
Right.
I'm just like, oh, this is funny. So I go back in poking the bear. I'm like, are you sure? Just like it becomes this game. And so
you're not attaching yourself.
No,
to
I wasn't attached, but I realized some of those people were. And that was when I had this moment where I'm like, huh, because I'm not even kidding. It had like several 100,000 views, tens of thousands of likes and shares in these series of tweets that I did just in this thread.
Yeah.
And, my Twitter following is, it's a couple thousand, but it's not like it's that massive to where that would be a normal thing for me.
Right.
And I had to step back after I kind of had my fun with it. And I'm like, I don't want to play in this game anymore.
I know.
To this one anyway. Because it's like, there could be people legitimately thinking that I don't like them based off of what I said. And I go, I know it's on them to deal with that, but like, we can't make people happy or sad. That's their choice, but we have an influence. And I was like, I want to be a better steward over my influence in this. So I'm gonna step back. But I didn't give a shit. Like I was like, this is funny to me. Like they were, you call yourself a comic. Like they would no merit to any of the things I was saying, just going at me personally. And I was like, oh, wow, this is an interesting because beforehand, a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have been wrapped up and pissed off and head down, going to war. Right. Now I'm like, oh, that's fun.
Right. But you also still stuck in it for a little while because it was so interesting for you to, and for other people. Like, it's very interesting that you're seeing what society has brought on to people. Yeah. But you also are like, I shouldn't. Like, I don't need to keep participating because I respect myself.
Yeah, I was appreciative of the juxtaposition because I've had actually my pinned tweet. I made this joke about Star Wars and how so many of Star Wars' fight scenes would have ended differently had they just installed a simple handrail. So I tweeted that and it kind of went viral. I had like several thousand likes and everything, you know, and so I got the love back on that one. It was like, oh, this is so funny and this is whatever. And I'm like, yeah. And then so to be the enemy on the other side, it was an interesting kind of flip on that.
But there's a lesson, right?
Yeah. Always a learning, always an experience, always something to take from it.
So what's next for you? What's coming up in your world that you want to do in your life? Like maybe not now or in the future, or like where do you see Bryce in the future inspiring other people? What does that look like to you?
That's a great question. I know for myself, you know, part of why I took a couple months off comedy is because I have some really lofty aspirations for my company and for what we're doing with podcasting.
Yeah.
And I say this I don't mean to come across super arrogant on this, but I say this with full confidence. There's nobody like me in the world. I've been in the podcasting game enough to know that from the consulting and creation space, nobody does it the way that I do it.
Yeah.
And the results that I have with the clients that I have speaks for themselves. Every show that I've had my hands in, a part of the creation of, does well.
Yeah.
Even if they've moved on to being produced by somebody else or anything, like those shows are all amazing shows. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, I love podcasting as a medium. I love the development that people have when they become podcasters. I love how it helps you to hone your own message and even know what you like about you and know what your actual thoughts are because of the process.
Right.
And so I want to rid the world of shitty podcasts. And so the only way to do that is to make new ones that are good and raise the bar. And so I've got some really lofty goals with that. And I've been expanding, you know, in the last 6 months, we brought on video as a component, and I have a video team that I work with now as a part of my staff and just growing that out. So that's the one thing. And, you know, I've got some financial goals associated with that because I want more toys, more fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. These exotic cars aren't going to buy themselves.
Right.
The other side of it is like with comedy. Like I've had a little bit of a lull with that, and it's been a little bit of kind of a kick in the dick.
But that's okay.
And I want to get back on that mountain again. I want to get back to where like I'm feeling super comfortable on stage.
Yeah.
I want to be considered funny on stage. I am considered funny on stage by the people that have seen me, but my confidence right now is low in it.
Yeah.
And so that's just a rep. I got to keep doing the reps, get back on stage.
Absolutely. It's just, you know, it's like when you haven't worked out for like 2 weeks, you know what I mean? You get back and you're like, oh man, I suck so much.
Dude, because being on stage, oh my gosh.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I've never spoken in front of like thousands of people, you know. I wanted to aspire to do that because like that's a lot of fear in a lot of people. But I also think it's really powerful and helps you grow even more. Yeah. And, you know, even from like my first podcast to now, it's very, very different. I mean, and that's really cool. And it's just like anything that you do, if you haven't done it in a while, you're going to get unconfident. Like if I didn't do podcasting for like 6 months, I go back, ooh, you know, but at those times is the lessons that we need to learn anyways. Like we're going to learn the lessons of how we're going to be even better than we were yesterday with standing on stage. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. If you take a break, you got to start all over again, but you're in a new space. You're not that person last time.
And I have, you know, thousands upon thousands of hours of practice already. It's just one of those things where being a comedian, it's the weirdest sort of pendulum. I know it'll happen. I go have one good set and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I've been doing this forever, man. You know how good I am. It's all great. Like you just, and then you have a shitty set and you're like, I suck. I should have never picked up a microphone. I can't believe my friends and family didn't tell me to leave this alone. I need better people around me because they're not helping me to see what a sucky comedian I am. Like you have these horrible, like,
I bet.
And it's just how it is. It is.
I bet, you know, but the dark times is where we learn the most, right? The dark
That's
times
where some of the best jokes come.
You just finished my sentence. Yeah. Look at that.
Right? There it is.
Sorry, microphone.
I can handle it.
It's fine. I'm just abusing the microphone. So I can't wait till you do a stand-up where I can come and, you know, be a spectator and support you in that. I would love that.
I'm sure my next headlining will be here in Salt Lake. So
good.
I'll make sure I tell everybody and get everybody down here.
I mean, you should tell everybody.
I will. Like that's one thing I'm proud of. I can sell tickets. Like I've sold out several shows as a comedian, and I'm proud of that because usually it takes people way more time to be able to have fans that respond that way.
Right.
So I'm thankful for that.
You should be thankful. I mean, you are really funny. I laugh at a lot of things.
Mom.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh my God, she said I was funny.
Just made your day. So here we are at the end of this podcast, you guys. What is one thing that you would tell yourself 20 years ago?
Don't marry her. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. I'm actually not kidding. Something else though. I think be kind to yourself. I think if I knew then the importance of like really accepting myself and being curious, I would have loved to have had that conversation with myself back then.
Yeah.
I didn't have the tools. I didn't have people around me that got it. I was religious.
You're in a box.
I was in a box. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That box is gone now.
That's right. That's right. So you guys write anything down that inspires you today. You can find Bryce on Instagram, Twitter. Obviously you guys heard that. And just follow him. I think he's really inspiring. I think he's pretty funny and he's just real and honest. So with that said, build your own table, you guys. Like put the people around you, just like on social media. We could be scrolling through social media and all you see is drama, right? That is your fault. That is your fault for following them. So don't follow those people. Like on my Free Lady account, I follow all these badass people, Once I find one badass person, then I find another one. And then my whole feed is like this positive algorithm. And Bryce can be one of those people in your feed, you guys.
Tell you what, I will forego the application process. You can just follow me. It's fine. I don't have to. There's no qualifying. You just click the follow button.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
But social media is great if you can use it that way. You know, like I love, like I get to see Ed Milet, I get to see Keith, I get to see you, I get to see Sean. I get to see all these amazing people that I look up to. And here we're all creating the same thing. And that's the same thing of like making people laugh, helping people love themselves and bringing joy into this world and standing up for what we believe in with our eyes opened.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I love it
so,
too.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been a super fun chat.
I know, right? It was kind of went everywhere, but that's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about.
Right. Being raw, being vulnerable.
We're still here. Nobody's canceled. The FBI hasn't bounced through the door. We're good.
I know, maybe. Hopefully they're not like standing outside somewhere. The aliens are coming.
Excuse me, Ms.
So thank you so much. And anything that you guys want to know about will be in the Dropbox. So stay tuned till next time. Thank you for listening.